Right, and that is this. Well, I've got to let everyone know that you're being recorded. Welcome to the first episode of The Nelson. I'm here with
Woo.
James. Would you like to introduce what you are called on Twitch? Because I'll get it wrong.
Right. So on Twitch, I'm known as GMAC247. People might know me formerly by FM Norwich, but I've kind of recently rebranded a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm mostly streaming on Twitch a lot. Mostly playing Football Manager, but that's probably about it really, more than anything else. So yeah, I'll hand you back to you guys. So
yeah, very successful. That was his username. It will be in the
yeah.
description, so you can check him out. And we are with the celebrity that is totally Tetty.
Oh, wow, I feel blushed. Well,
So the guy who's just uploaded another video, and the numbers are pretty impressive already.
yeah, they've already beaten the previous video somehow, so but I think we all know why.
I
But
think it was a world class clip, wasn't it, of
yeah,
Daniel Farker that has transformed it.
yeah,
But sure,
I somehow managed just to be able to get somewhere to get multicolored backgrounds. Had to
yeah,
do a bit of YouTube searching. Show the amateur side I am, but
yeah, actually, don't worry. All a bit amateur sometimes, and you know what? It works. Whatever you do, it works every time. The video is just
Well, that's the
make
thing, because obviously Rob Butler DM'd me that all those years ago and said about, their road piece help, but that's what makes it brilliant. And I said to him, oh, one day I might get better. But he said, no, don't get better. It's perfect as it is.
be rubbish. Nah,
Exactly.
nah, very good. And honestly, they are class. They really are. And honestly, I think they've just made everything feel better recently. Because we're in depressing times kind of, but and also a bit like Norwich City, they've been helping us sort of get through these depressing times because the performances we don't have too much to complain about with them at the
Exactly.
moment, do we?
Yeah, it couldn't be going any better. I mean, how far ahead we are, and we're in mid-March now.
Yeah,
Surely we've got up. Surely we're up. One hand on the title, dare I say? But
yeah. Swansea
before,
dropping points was big, obviously last night, but we obviously have to do our own thing, but it
of
helps that
course.
gap a little bit.
Yeah, you should, with these situations, you should never just rely on others to fall. We've got to do the job ourselves, and we have been, 6 wins in a row. Good recovery after the loss against Swansea, and any teams that lose points, it's handy.
Exactly, yeah. And the game that's coming up, Sheffield Wednesday, a Sunday game on Mothering Sunday. What are you guys thinking going into that? Because surely, I mean, you can't say it's guaranteed points because it never is in the championship. But surely this one, you just look at our form and their form; it's complete opposites. It can only really go one way, surely.
I think on paper, as you say, it should go one way realistically, but I think you've still got to check. It's pretty much in our hands really. So you've got to kind of keep them in same sort of mentality um, as usual. And I think as Director Neil Fark usually says, the fact that even though we're so many points clear, we've still got to keep kind of pessimistic, and you've got to think that when we beat Brentford, Thomas Franker, doing the honourable thing of saying that we're pretty much up. But at the same time, I think it's got to be the same sort of thing. Like I say, you've got to go in the same mentality, not to get too carried away really, because you've got to look at last time we were in the Championship, we won the league, and that same season Leeds were promoted at Christmas, and
Yeah,
where that season actually finished.
they
They
didn't get
finished third and didn't even go up until the season later. So
yeah, obviously we're further
um,
along than that, but yeah, you're right. We shouldn't get too carried away. What I'm trying to think about with Sheffield Wednesday is who have they got who can punish us? Because I think about who their best players are. Adam Reach maybe, and Jordan Rhodes and Callum Patterson. They're the ones you'd think of. But are they really? Are they just sort of average players, or are they like that good? I'm not trying to like discredit them or anything, but it doesn't look like anyone is stepping up for them, even their sort of bigger championship names.
Not particularly, no. Obviously, the past Reach has been obviously their go-to man, and you only have to go back a couple of seasons ago. He was banging in goals for fun outside the box. Long shot specialist, but I could have seen this happening with Sheffield Wednesday. After the failed attempts at the playoffs, they were eventually going to be mid-table fodder, and obviously it's been a lot worse for them this season. And
Yeah,
I mean, with Rotherham, they've got at least 4 games in hand, I think.
Yeah, they're not playing it. They just don't want to play at the moment.
Exactly, and obviously, I can imagine some Sheffield Wednesday fans and possibly Birmingham fans will probably be like, this is a bit dodgy, but I mean, it is what it is, and you'd like to think they're going to be going down to League One with Wickham, but you never know. They might have a late turnaround, like Wigan.
Because like Sheffield Wednesday, you think they're a big club for the Championship, and they're one of them clubs that a bit like maybe like Forest, like Derby, like Villa all them years ago. They had a bit of attempts, and even us. And when we came down from the 15-16 season, and we spent probably a bit too much in the 16-17 season. I think it was. Sheffield Wednesday have had quite a big go at it, and they haven't got there. And it's now looking that's probably done them quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you've got to look at it. I think at the same time, as much as like I do agree that a few years ago, since they were in and around the playoffs, you've got to think sure that will have had an added effect. I think at the same time they've maybe strengthened too much in certain areas. For example, a couple of years or so they have had maybe 2 or 3 too many strikers, for example, and maybe look at that's cost them in the way that they've maybe had like too many players, too little players in other positions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think financially it wouldn't have helped them either. And I think to answer your question in terms of whether these players, they're not bad players, but at the same time, I think they're also maybe a little bit too old at the same time. I think Jordan Rhodes has got a bit of quality here and there at this division, but I think if you look at the league table, even with this -6 points that they had at the start of the season, they would still, even without that, they'd still be in the bottom 3. So I think they're a bit lacking.
And you said about the positions. I mean, I think there was one time when they had Forestieri, Rhodes, Winnall, Hooper, Lucas Jow. I mean, all these strikers are like on the same at the same time. I mean, who did they play? I mean, maybe it was just the fact that they just they recruited players that they thought on paper would do okay, but it just isn't always played on paper. And it would be nice, obviously, I don't want to obviously slack on Sheffield Wednesday for the whole chat, but like it's quite difficult to actually pick out bits where we can be worried about. I mean, if I am maybe thinking of something, it's that Callum Patterson on paper can be quite a good sort of utility man. He can play in a variety of positions, and he's quite a good physical presence up front. So if there's any moment's gonna be a bit worried, it will probably be from a corner, maybe Callum Patterson, just sneaking one in. But other than that, I think our defense has improved this season, so I'm hoping we can sort of see them out.
Yeah, definitely. Defense has been fantastic. Gibson and Hanley partnership's been superb, and obviously we had our problems last time going up. The defense is a bit leaky, but we were practically a young defense with Lewis, Godfrey, Aarons playing their first full season properly. But going back on obviously Sheffield Wednesday, with the threat, it's obvious Norwich if we concede from a corner, but because with all the zone and marking, the controversy, some people like it, some don't. But it's a funny one with Wednesday, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying, Gibson and Hanley, it's been a rock. I mean, I think this season we've been better than last season. I think this team that we've made additions to, like the loans, like Gibson, for example, Giannoulis and Skipp in the midfield. I think we had a plan last season in the Prem. It wasn't like we played bad football and we were just trampled. It was like we had a plan, but we just weren't quite good enough at doing the plan. We didn't have the squad for it because in the Prem, teams just have money. They can just buy anyone. It's like it wasn't like we were just awful. We just weren't as good as many teams. So it was quite difficult to pick up the points. But this season, I think it's been smart recruitment. The loans seem to just work. The additions that we've made, especially ones like Sorensen, they just look like smart ones for the future. And overall, I think like it's going to be an interesting summer to see like how our Premier League recruitment's going to be. But that brings me on nicely to the man we were just talking about a bit, Oliver Skipp. Will he be back next season on loan?
I'd like to think so. I think we heard in the it's rumored that apparently we've been in talks with it. I think he could be a really valuable asset. From the point of view, I think this season he's had an absolutely sublime impact on that midfield role. Really, I think his actual defensive. I think he actually really suits our system. He reminds me a little bit of quite a lot about Tom Fogel from a couple of years ago when we last went up, really, with how well how successful he is when it comes to winning the ball back and then giving it to someone else.
Yeah.
I think he does that. Fogel did, and I think he just looks like it's so comfortable with him. So I think he'll prove to be a valuable asset for next season as well. And considering he's had this season to kind of get used to our system as well, I think that extra season with us, especially in the top flight for that reason alone as well, would be rather beneficial for all parties, really.
Absolutely, you've spoken about it quite well. Really, he is like that ball-winning midfielder. And when Tom Tribal was on his game in the Championship a couple of seasons ago, he was really good. And Oliver Skipp, maybe, obviously no offense to Tom Tribal, he's a great player and he helped us out last night with an assist against Swansea. But Oliver Skipp really does look like a player with his age, someone who could play in the Premier League now already. But the question is, will he get that game time at Spurs? And he is overall quite a player that's, I think, shocked me the most, Oliver Skipp, because remember we signed him on loan and I saw it and I thought, I'm happy because I'm always excited when a player signs, no matter what. It's like, oh, how's he going to do for us? I was just always is the case with like sort of Premier League youngsters. How are they going to do? Because are they just all talk? Are they going to play a few games? How are they? Because we already had players, obviously, and it's been like he's just come straight into our midfield, and he's just stayed there. I mean, McLean and Rupp, they've alternated. They're both decent players, but I think Skip's probably the best one. And obviously, Leitner, he's not even part of the squad anymore. I mean, I was wrong. Skipp has just started. I didn't think Skipp would be starting every single game like he has, and he's been really impressive at it.
Yes, I think what the problem last season was, I always found that because obviously the amount of times we changed our midfield too, I think Farke didn't really know his best partnership, because the amount of times we had McLean or Leitner, McLean or Tribal, I think that's probably one of the main problems. But and obviously Skipp coming in, you think okay, fair enough, got a stacked in midfield, but obviously it's paid off well. He's been our best player, well, one of our best players,
Yeah,
likes of Buendia and obviously Pukki on form and Gibson, Hanley, but can't complain really.
That's the thing. Yeah, I think without players, we're a solid Championship team. But with a few, I'm thinking Gibson, I'm thinking Skipp, and I'm thinking Buendia. Them three in particular, they take us to like a super Championship team.
Yeah, definitely.
Like low mid-level Prem team. It's those just a few players. It can even be just one player on his day, like Buendia, for example. Just a few fine margins they can really transform a team.
Yeah, I think your point about how Skipp has made pretty much played every single game this season just shows, I think, how crucial a player he's been to this season. And I think 9 times out of 10, when you I mean, I know there's still quite a few games to go in the league yet, but 9 times out of 10, when you hear the someone say an individual player's made 100% appearances in the league or 100% in all appearances in all competitions for a particular club, 9 times out of 10 you're going to hear that for a goalkeeper. Yeah, and for someone who's an outfield player, no matter what position you are for an outfield player, that's I think is a significant thing, and that shows how crucial to the way we've played this season, really. Yeah. So
shout out to Aarons as well, or Aarons, I should say now, for pronouncing his name right. After the recent news that his name is actually pronounced that, but yeah, shout out to Aarons because he's also like Skipp, he's been ever present as well. So and he's ridiculously young as well. I mean, he's the one where I think he is just, you've got to hold your hands up and say he's going to be too good, and eventually he will leave us because clubs are going to be looking at the stats that he produces as like a young right back and think, oh, hang on, look at this guy, he's going to be great. And I think he might also be able to like skip the mid-table Prem club level. I think his next transfer could be to a really, really big club, whether it's United, whether it's Bayern, whether it's Everton. I think he's got the ability, and it's quite crazy that we've played a part in his development, and just hats off to him. And it's been great that we've had him this season, though, because I feel like without Aarons, even this season would have been very different.
Yeah, definitely. And it's obviously, with how good our players have been, it's obviously going to be sad when some of them eventually leave, like Aarons and obviously Cantwell, Buendia especially. But obviously, what's interesting is obviously where could he go? Because obviously he's had the links of Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and obviously, it was recently Everton, I've heard. But it's interesting where he's going to go, but obviously, gone.
I was going to say yes. Roma were interested in January. I think it will depend a bit on who qualifies for the Champions League. For example, where will Spurs finish? The Premier League's I don't think anyone really knows yet who's going to finish where in the Premier League, so that could determine funds for a lot of clubs. Whether we could see him maybe at Tottenham, some sort of sweetener for Skipp on loan again. It's just about
Yeah, the amount of people that keep saying they'd rather ship Aaron's to Tottenham, well, not ship, but transfer him to Tottenham, and we get Skip back, but I doubt that would happen. But that'd be a dream,
Yeah, it would be. I'm not saying they've both been really crucial to us. It's just about seeing what we can work for us, because obviously we do need all the help we can get. Next thing, I won't be one of them that it will be. It's a shame that we can't always see our best players stay. But when we support a club like we do, and it's the size that we are, we can't always expect us to keep everybody if huge money comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen it enough times now over the years with whether it's been someone like Pritchard or Howson or Jacob Murphy or Godfrey, Maddison, whether it's a player we love. A lot of times, if they're really good and a team comes in with the pound notes, we can't really stop them too much if the club is in a better position or a better financial position than us. So it will be sad, but if it was a sweetener for the Skip deal, I wouldn't too much.
And I mean, it's the sort of thing as you say. I think it's not only the fact that a club of the size of the club, but it's also the fact that they were also kind of like a self-funded club as well. So I can't. Can't really.
Yeah, we need it. Definitely.
But I think the positive is the fact that you can see, looking at how well they've the club and in the last 2, 3, 4 years how well they've done their transfer policy really. The start of the season, this season in particular, where we signed quite a few players. Jordan Hugill, he's not had a particularly fantastic season because of the fact that he's mostly been kept out by a couple of injuries and how well Pukki's done. In recent form especially, but we've actually spent a lot of money this season, but yet still made a relatively decent profit this season on transfers. Hugill, of course, wasn't cheap for how well he's. No. 5 million is, I think, a decent fee for a championship.
I think it's like 2.5, but if we go up to the Prem, we might have to pay more. So we might have to pay,
that wouldn't surprise
something like that, yeah.
Well, money. Yeah. You know what though, and you've mentioned how Hugo hasn't got the game time in fair play. He hasn't got the game time because Pukki's just been that important, and he's proved me wrong. For example, when I thought, well, will Pukki keep this up? Will he be able to turn around a dry patch of form? He's been at it, and really, Ida and Hugo, who could both be playing for championship clubs realistically every week because they're that good, but they haven't been able to break into the team. But Hugo's even played a part. I think it's been commented on that he's a really good character in the dressing room, and his goal. He has scored some goals. I have a late penalty against Rotherham. He scored against Bristol City, and in a cup against Coventry. I think I'm naming all the goals.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Even the sort of other players that have played like sort of smaller roles this season, like Josh Martin, for example, or Christoph Zimmermann. He's been in the team and out. Mumba, he only played a couple of games, but he had a great performance against Swansea. The players that aren't playing a lot, even Omatoy before he went out on loan, they've been playing when they've been given the little chance. They've done well, so it's like it has been a squad effort, and I feel like that's something that's been really good about this Norwich City team this season. It's maybe more so than last time. It's like we're looking really good and strong as a group, and I feel that's the important thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think you can say one player's been bad or underperforming this season. I mean, obviously, people obviously scapegoat Poeta. Obviously, he has his moments. Obviously, he's still young and he's new to the English game, as some of the other players have been. But obviously, some grow into it quicker, like Buendia, Pukki. But obviously, but no one's really been bad, and everyone's had a good season. Obviously, as you said, even the smaller roles like Mumba and Josh Martin, they've all done a job.
All done a job, definitely. I mean, who are you excited by? Maybe out of the players that we haven't seen a lot yet. It could be someone out on loan as well. Who are you excited to see? Because there was a lot of hype about seeing someone like Sebastian Soto come into the team eventually. But obviously, we were all, I think, because that was in an era when we were winning games, but we were winning by 1 goal, and I think people were thinking, we need to see another striker just in case, Puga. But I think at the moment, Soto he's back, and it will be interesting to see when he plays. But when will that be? Will that be next season? Will he need a loan move next season till we see Soto?
I think he'll need a loan because I don't think at this point he's not sure. He might, of course, as we said already, Pukki at the minute is in good form.
Yeah.
And then the 2 bench players who seem to be getting 10, 15 minutes here or there, Hugo and Ida getting 10, 15 minutes every game or so. I think at the minute he might, depending on what he would bring in next season. He might need another loan move because, of course, the fact that I think there's about already at the moment 3 players ahead of him in particular. So I think he'll probably be out on loan. Maybe the same could be said of Vida as well next season. But
A guy I'm really happy with his loan development at the moment is Sam McCallum. I think with Coventry he's done really well, and it was the right move to give him back. I think it's he's a 1.5 years out on loan, and I'm wondering will it be the same because Coventry. I'm thinking they're going to be in the Championship again next season. Obviously, who knows? But I think they're safe. So next season, will it be worth us maybe giving Sam McCallum to them again, or will he have a part to play with us?
Not sure on that. I mean, obviously we've got Giannoulis, and I'd like to think, because obviously we've got him on loan and option to buy. I'd like to think we will go for him, because I mean, as we said, we're just assuming that we're going to go up, and obviously this could be obviously I can see it being the end of Kintier because obviously nowhere to be seen since injury, and obviously since we've got Giannoulis in, and I think McCallum would benefit with another loan out. I don't think he'd be it'd be a step up too much going to the Premier League, and obviously same with the likes of Ida and Sosso, and loan moves for them would be beneficial. Obviously that brings the question: who do we bring in the transfer window? And obviously, because I think we do need someone that's decent backup, or if not competing for that striker role for Pukki. Because as much as I like Hugo, obviously he's never really done it in the Premier League, but I still think we need a better option than him. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, obviously he didn't get the minutes at West Ham, did he? That was the thing. It was the announcement video that went viral of the bubble. He's never quite. I feel sorry for him. And to be fair, I think he made a ton of money from it. I think he was on a big wage at West Ham, so fair play to him. He got the move. He just didn't get the game time. And he's a solid chat. I like watching Hugo play. He's like reminds me of like an old school striker. The way he plays, the way he runs. He's a physical player. Like someone who can get in a player's head, and he gives everything for the team. I've been impressed with him. It's just. Maybe you are right. Maybe he won't get game time next season. And a bit like maybe Dowell. Like Dowell's the one I was most excited about. He hasn't had the game time. And is Championship game time for him more important if we're keeping him long term? Obviously, we don't know. We don't work in the recruitment team. We can't say what's going to happen to him. But he's just he's someone I'm so excited by as a player because I think on his day. I think it was Nottingham Forest loan move. I mean, he was quite similar to James Maddison when he was having all the long shots for Norwich in 17-18. Dowell was on loan at Forest, and he was the same thing. It was just long shots, goals. Will it ever be, and some real good sort of flair attacking play? Will we ever see that with Dowell in a Norwich City shirt? It'd be great to see one day, but I'm just not sure.
I think I was talking to you guys about Dowell the other day, or I sent a message here or there about him. I just feel like I mean, he's another player that did have a little injury that took him out for a little while. But the thing is, the biggest problem for him is the fact that he's been back for a good few months now, and he's only been coming off the bench, just like you might expect with a bit like Hugo and Ida, who only come off for 10-15 minutes. But the issue is, like you were talking about earlier, with the amount of midfielders we've got. I think because he's an attacking midfielder, the issue is the fact that for me, as things stand, with how good of our players have been in form at the minute, the two attacking players that I think, when they're fit, that are pretty much nailed on the head starting are Buendia and Cantwell. So that, of course, Skipp is also another player who's also in the midfield role, pretty much nailed on. Which means there's only two midfield positions
as you
available.
Said,
we're
not sure.
So you go ahead.
Yeah, obviously we're not sure what the team will be like next year because we don't. Hopefully, Skip will be around, but will Dowell be able to break through in the Premier League? I mean, is it a case where Cantwell was arguably more suited to the Premier League? The original time he's been good this season, Cantwell, especially second half. But Dowell, if he was to go to the Premier League, would he be in that team?
I can't see it. Personally, I personally can't see it. I can see him getting loaned out again for the same reason as the fact that I feel as though because he's only getting 10 to 15 minutes a game this season, coming off the bench, and he's got 2 or 3 players, pretty much almost the entire midfield, pretty much starting ahead of him. I can't see him really being around in and around our starting 11 next season. I think I can see him being loaned out again.
And what do you think has been the most surprising thing this season about Norwich City?
Um, I mean, in all honesty, the most surprising thing is how we've actually, recovered from last season without ever since, going back after lockdown, how poor we were, losing every single game, and
Jeez.
and obviously, to be top of the league at this point, and obviously be performing even better than last time out in the championship. I think that's probably, as much as surprising it is. Obviously, it's brilliant. I knew we'd obviously be challenging again to go back up again, but top two, obviously, I would have obviously loved that, and maybe playoffs if needed be, but I never expect us to be this far ahead already, and
Yeah.
I guess that may be the most surprising thing.
I mean,
Yeah,
just
I agree. I think there's what's also surprised me a little bit as well is how well I think we've been defensively. Because I feel, correct me if I'm wrong again, but I feel as though this is probably the best defensive we've been under Farker since he's joined as well. You can literally look when we won the league a couple of years ago, we were being deemed the only um, we were deemed the championship winners with the worst ever record or defensive record in terms of like goals conceded. And that you can also take a look at that previous season, Farker's first season, how many we conceded then, and of course then last season as well when we finished bottom, we shipped a lot of goals. So thinking what Jack said as well, how well we've recovered, not only with how we're playing, but how little we've conceded as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, and it's as you touched on the defensive contribution from everyone, not just the centre backs. I mean, for me, it's a weird one to bring up, but Pookie, his defensive contribution is so amazing for a striker. I just want to mention that because I think it was the Norwich Brentford game on Sky. Someone said, I think they were doing a comparison of Tony and Pookie. Obviously, Tony's a fantastic striker. They were saying Tony's got all the defensive contribution. Look how he helps out the team. But Pookie is unreal. Like, how could you not look at the Norwich team and not realise how good this guy has been? And he's
yeah,
been a shock because I was. I, a lot like a lot of people, Project Restart kind of showed how far away we are, and just Jack mentioning it gave me a PTSD a bit. Like remember like, oh god, this is where we're going again potentially. And that's the difference, isn't it, in quality? I mean, and it's a much bigger battle. But Pookie in some of these games, I mean, obviously there was a lot of hate on Dermich from a lot of our fans because people were thinking, oh, he's not up to it. But it wasn't just him. It was all of them really. No one really looked up for it. I think there was a lot of uncertainty and it was like a lot of it was negativity, and fair play to Farker and fair play to everyone for like pulling together and sort of recovering.
Yeah, it was quite a dark time when the project restarted. Obviously, at the start of losing to Southampton and Everton, you didn't really think it could get worse. And obviously, it did, and obviously, no one really stood out. Like, obviously, I mean, I guess obviously you could say Tim Krul's the only one that was okay. Obviously, he still made a mistake against Arsenal, and obviously he shipped a lot of goals in, but no one was no one done well. But and obviously, as you said, PTSD.
Very much so.
I think the weirdest thing about that project restart is the fact that we a lot of people who aren't Norwich City fans or work around the club say that we were at the start of last season. We almost prepared to go down without actually whatnot, which I think is not the case. But until you actually look at the project restart, really, I don't think we were actually properly, you know. I think when Project Restart happened, we were already X amount of points off. We
Yeah,
kind of lost our 12th man in the fans. So I think from that it was that point where we didn't show a huge amount of interest, really.
yeah. I think it was a tough ask really. Everyone we had a few weeks off. I think there was some uncertainty. I think there was probably a lot of doubt within the recruitment team about who was going to come in for our players. I'm impressed we managed to keep as many as we did.
Mm,
I think we still had some injury crisis a bit, didn't we? Like we had to bring Closer straight back into, and obviously got to him Closer. He's an amazing player. What a servant he was to us. But he hadn't played all season for us, had he? And he obviously gave
no,
him time. Project Restart gave him time to recover, but when he came back in, he just looked off the pace, and a bit like our team really. We looked like we didn't look in the same level at the same level as the other
no,
teams we played. And I do already think that that's already been rejuvenated. I think if we were to go back to Project Restart now with this current team in the format we're in the Premier League, we'd have a better go of it, a much better go. I don't
mm,
think we'd roll over like we had. I think it was
yeah,
just weren't
Hmm.
quite good enough. And already it's a process, and we've heard it so many times for many years, and it is about having a plan A, sticking to it, and making it as good as you can be. I think I saw Russell Martin did an interview recently with MK Dons, and it spoke a lot of truth. I mean, obviously there is a question, and he was saying people asking about Plan Bs. It's not about a Plan B; it's about getting better at Plan A.
Mm.
Obviously, bring in Farker. He's one of them, and other managers don't want to give into the Leeds love fest. But Bielsa, he's done well at doing stuff like that as well. They might ship a lot of goals, but he's got a style of play, and that's what they do, and it's what we should do when we go up to the Premier again. We shouldn't just change everything just because we're in a different league. I want to see our players playing the way they're playing at the moment with the same confidence, just at a higher league, which would be great to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think weirdly enough, a lot of people might disagree with me by saying this, but I think there's, to a certain degree, there's a lot of similarity between how Bielsa and Leeds play in comparison to how we play as well. I think it's relatively similar to us from a certain point of view. I think the only difference is, of course, Leeds have quite a significant amount more money than we do.
Yeah, they're slightly better than us. They have a few better players. Like they have players like Rafinha and all that, and he's been incredible. It's not just him. Some of the players they've made a good step up from even before Bielsa's time. Even as someone obviously not the biggest fan of them, they wind me up a bit, Leeds. So
Yeah,
they were a class act last season, and they've had games in the Prem this season where they have been class as well.
Yeah, here's the crazy thing about Leeds is the fact that I think I've been talking to. I've got a couple of Leeds fans that I'm friends with, and they've been saying that the way that Bielsa's changed that team around is absolutely fantastic, because they keep saying quite a few of those players in that Leeds side are actually average Championship sides or Championship players. And I think that just shows how good of a job he's done there. But yeah.
So yeah, I've got a mate who's a Leeds fan as well. He might go a couple of sentences without mentioning that Bielsa's a god, but that's about it. It's very, very different you hear about it. But, they have been class. That is sort of the stuff I'd want to. Obviously, I'm not sure if we can spend that sort of money that they did on Rafinha or Rodrigo. I don't think we have the money to really go in for quite so much. I think we will see our transfer record break. So I think our current one is 8. We paid a similar amount for Naismith Closer and Ricky Van Wolfswinkel. So that was around the £8.5 million mark, and we haven't since then. I'm wondering if this season we'll maybe see that.
Not sure on that. It's these days with Norwich and transfer window, it's tricky to tell who we're going to sign, how much we're going to sign for, and obviously, obviously hoping we come back up. Parachute payments, and obviously, will we keep hold of Buendia and Aarons and the likes of them? We don't know. I'd like to think we would, but if we didn't, then I'd imagine we'd invest some of it for once, to give us a bit of a chance to replace them and have a chance of staying up. But it'd be an interesting summer for sure.
Yeah, previously obviously we say about the investment. The investment has gone into being careful and making sure our debts have been paid, and training ground and training facilities have been invested in. So that has been the important thing. James has just decided to go for a quick break. Mr. Caro has left the building. We'll soldier on without him. But yeah, I think we've had a good discussion today. Obviously, this is the first one of these we're doing. We just wanted a little bit of a chat, didn't we?
It's been nice, something different, we've not done before, and it's obviously, as you two know, but no one else knows, obviously my new setup. I'm loving doing like this. Otherwise, if it not, I'd be sitting in my bed on my MacBook, poor quality. But
I do feel like the odd one out though, because like you have obviously James got his Norwich City background. You've obviously got the Norwich City shirt. What's James been? And I'm here just black jumper, Hotel Mario.
Well, you can't beat that, anyways.
Exactly, you can't beat Hotel Mario.
I don't think I can change my background because obviously I've got a webcam attached to it on USB, and I don't think I can change it because I'm trying to hover over everything. But I don't think so. So even so, it's my bedroom. Nothing interesting. Tiny TV over there.
Oh, it's better than nothing, It's
well, yeah. You don't need the most expensive thing.
Yeah,
although saying that though, I spent like £700 on all the setup. Chair, PC,
Sky, flexing.
Yeah, pretty much. But and the new microphone like that to copy Jim Jam. But
or ASMR.
To be fair,
What do you think about? So, what are you watching on that TV though?
to be honest, I haven't actually turned it on for a while. To be fair, the only time we get to use properly is when Amy's over. But obviously, when she's been over last November the 1st, apart from Christmas Day, but that was it. But but mostly it's like Netflix, Disney Plus, and if there's any Premier League games on, they'll be on Amazon Prime.
You know what? I'm amazed by just the fact that I've been using Disney Plus more than Netflix. I didn't think that would ever be the case, but the content drop on there recently has been insane, and
yeah, what's it called, Star Play or something like that. That's
so good.
I'd say Disney Plus was good enough as it is, but that added on is brilliant. Obviously, they've got Family Guy on there, which I really love, and I haven't watched that in a long while. But obviously, I did get the DVDs from Family Guy series 1 to 11 a few years ago for Christmas. Obviously, that seems a bit wasted now, but I mean, gone the days of DVDs and
on the days of DVDs, yeah. But watch Solar Opposites is good if you haven't seen that on Disney Plus. That's it. By the way, Morty guys, it's good stuff, and that's on there.
See, I would say I'll give that a watch, but the amount of times I keep saying when people recommend me stuff, I never get a chance to because I come home from work, I'm too knackered, I just want to play FIFA or whatever, and scroll around on Twitch, look at the Twitter. Twitch if our lovely friend is live streaming.
Friend is on there, yeah, of course. You've got like a hotel TV because it's small and you never turn it on.
Exactly, yeah. It feels like a hotel because half the time I'm in Savers, so Yeah,
it's like you're a serious businessman. Think of it like that.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully one day that won't be it, and we this podcast takes off. We're signed up by Spotify. We've got our own studio, and no more bedroom recordings.
That is the dream, isn't it? I mean, imagine.
I mean, dream big, but the same with me. But then again, I'm a bit different. My life motto: aim low, overachieve. But
that is what you tell your kids when they.
Well, I say that, especially with bets, and I can confirm tonight's bet is in the mud because Barnsley drew 0-0 with Derby, and I'm annoyed because Barnsley were like 6 wins in a row, and obviously not happy.
That's devastating for me, considering Barnsley have suddenly become my B team out of fucking nowhere this season.
Yeah, Jamie, you could actually say that because he got a bunch of likes from Barnsley fans.
I literally got like 220 likes just for saying that I really respect how they performed against bloody Chelsea. I was like, I'm going to shit my fucking phones or what?
They loved it.
It's the Carlton Morris Leagues.
And they are a class club. I think Barnsley are a class club. They recruit how they should. They don't overspend. They play football the proper way. They've got some players from lower leagues who have made the step up well. I have a lot of respect for them, and if they do get promoted through the playoffs, I think they'll be great. Maybe obviously the Premier League is a different ball game for them, but what a story it would be. It'd be like Blackpool or Derby all them years ago, wouldn't it?
The only reason why I want Barnsley to go up is because obviously they're one of the 3 clubs that have only played in the Premier League since it's formed in 1992 just once and went straight back down. So for them to go back, Swindon and Blackpool.
Oh, okay.
Swindon was 93, 94, and Blackpool was obviously 10, 11. Barnsley was 97, 98, I think. That's when Arsenal won the league for the first time in like so many years. But
yeah,
it'd be nice for them. So there's now only 2 teams that obviously have played one season. But it's the outside chance because obviously if they are to stay in the playoffs, which they're currently 6th still, it's a tough ask. But if they carry on their form, then I don't see why not. But you still got the likes of Bournemouth, hanging around. Cardiff are on good form under good old Mick McCarthy. Shout out Prentice Donnelly.
Oh yeah,
I'd actually love Barnsley to go up. To be fair, considering they're that would be probably a slightly more fairy tale story than it was when Bournemouth went up with us.
Yeah.
But as well as that, my favourite thing about them being in the playoffs is literally the fact that somebody else will have to be sacrificed and stay in the Championship for another year. And without preferably Bournemouth from my point of view, because of course I think they'd probably be the side that will, to a certain degree, be more challenging for us next season. But of course, you never know. To be fair, considering
change things, you can't even say it. Predicting is all a bit like it's all a bit like anticipation, isn't it? You never know from the first game who's gonna. Obviously, you Shay and bring up Leicester and all that, but it is a bit like that. You never quite know. Like I wouldn't. Who's the shock for me this season in the Premier League? I'm trying to think of the shock for me this season is West Ham, probably
West Ham definitely, yeah, because considering how the first, I think it's 6 or 7 fixtures of the season, they were very very like harsh and like most of the top 6 teams, but they've been brilliant, like fair play to them. And obviously, Souček being their star signing, and obviously Jesse Lingard's actually performing very well, and I'm happy to see that because obviously all the memes going on around him being quite poor, but it's nice to see he's finally,
I always thought he was a good player. I've said for years he should have left Man United because it was clear he wasn't just quite right for them. But at another club he can excel. He is a decent player.
Yeah.
He proven that many years ago. People probably have forgotten this now, but I remember his loan spells, and he always looked like a Premier League player on those loan spells. Somebody who was going to go to the top. But at United, it's such a competitive level. They want you to be elite.
Yeah, he did have a point. The 17-18 season, he was actually quite decent, and it's just then obviously since Mourinho's left, it's obviously he's just dropped off a bit. Not been the same since. But obviously he's found his form again at West Ham, and I'd like to think they'd sign him back on permanently, which that'd be the ideal situation for them.
Mm. And I mean, maybe a case for the England squad. I mean, for me, like you've got Maddison, you've got obviously Mount, but a bit more deep. You've got Ali, you've got Grealish, Lingard. You've got quite a lot of options there. I mean, Grealish for me, I mean, he has just been amazing. And I remember a lot of the times thinking a few years ago, thinking, is Grealish ever really going to do it? Like, is he going to be elite? But he really is now one of the best players in the Premier League, in my opinion. And I have egg on my face a bit because I remember a few years ago I thought, oh, he won't go for England. He declared he won't ever go. And I remember thinking Marcus Maddison from Peterborough would be the player to transition into the Premier League and make a save for the England spot, League Two. And Grealish is a star every week for Villa. So that just shows. That just shows. What do I know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, obviously, I've mentioned to you before about Marcus Maddison's, obviously, because I've got a few Peterborough fans I follow on Twitter, and they don't particularly like him, obviously, because he's got a massive attitude problem, and there's him being all the big I am with him being at Charlton, thinking he's a Championship player, and look at him at League Two Bolton, but
Yeah, ability wise, he's amazing. Like League One, he looked on top of it. His stats
definitely.
His assist level at League One was crazy. And you thought if there's one player pointing out who can make a transition up, it's him. But obviously there were these issues there that have just, I wonder how much. And obviously he formed great relationships. He formed a great relationship was it with Tony? He formed a great relationship last season before he went to Hull on loan.
Quite possibly, I think.
And he formed a great relationship with Jack Marriott, of course, before he went to Derby. Am I right? And then he's just got. It's weird how we've been going from topic to topic in this. We started off speaking about like the Sheffield Wednesday game, Oliver Skipp. Now I've moved on to Marcus Maddison, and it's all random.
That's the beauty of podcasts, I'd say. But,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's amazing, really. We're just sort of a bit of a chat, and we go all over the place. But for me, I was thinking, we've got James Maddison, obviously they're not related, but Marcus Maddison, this guy, he's going to be a special player, but it hasn't quite gone like that for him. And but on the topic, if you go back to the England squad, who are you picking as your creative midfielder? Is it going to be Grealish? Is it Maddison? Because I can't see us picking. People would say, "Oh, play Grealish and Maddison together." I'm not sure I can see a Gareth Southgate team going too mental on the more than one creative midfielder option.
Definitely not.
No. Yeah. I think every side needs probably one, really. Because if it's the sort of thing, if you have more than one on the pitch at the same time, then I feel as though it's the players are going to be a little bit confused, and maybe then with more than one, you might have one or two, a couple of players out of position, which is why it's always important to have one from my point of view, to be fair, but everyone else might have a different point of view from that, really. But
yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, for me, I don't know. I'm very torn. Obviously, I'm a bit biased. I think Mount will play, and whether he goes as a central midfielder, like the background change, whether Mount's the central midfielder point, I feel like Henderson is probably an option for Southgate that I just feel like he'll go with. So it'll be Henderson, Mount.
I just don't see it changing much with Southgate because I see how defensive the last few games he's been playing. Like at least 7 defensive players in the team, and I mean, you'd like to think he might change up a bit, but I mean, I don't, knowing him, he'll just keep it the same. But
I'm not
obviously,
sure. I'm not sold on Calvin Phillips in the English. I know. I really think Calvin Phillips is a top player, but I'm not sure if he makes the England team. But obviously, we want to win the world. Our aim as an England fan, you want England to be the best in the world. You want them to have the best team load. I'm not sure I've seen enough yet from Calvin Phillips that shows to me he's England material. And I know I was saying earlier, I really rate Leeds. I think he's a fantastic player in the Leeds team. But you need Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips in one lineup. I'm not sure.
yeah, it's an interesting one. I've not really seen much of Calvin Phillips, but obviously he definitely deserves obviously a call up, and obviously a few, yeah, definitely. And
who is a shout because Calvin Phillips was doing it for a top of the league team in the Championship. Oliver Skipp, obviously on loan from Tottenham at us, he's doing it top of the Championship.
Yeah.
The only thing is between Oliver Skipp and Calvin Phillips is, of course, I feel as though, when Calvin Phillips, when Leeds were in the Championship last season, of course, last season, what's his name? Oliver Skipp had actually, for those who watched the Tottenham documentary from last season, Skipp had in fact made a couple of Premier League games last season. For the notable one, I think was the game between Spurs and Burnley at Turf Moor. He had a couple of games then, which I think the most crazy thing is maybe because, I don't know, it's a tough one really, because they're both, I think they're both good at the Championship level, but I just feel like both of them need at least a significant amount of more Premier League experience before.
Fair enough. Bit more from them. It's a bit like Mings to me. Mings obviously he's a good defender in his day. I don't really like him much as a player because of the face stamping, but he on his day an effective defender, really effective. But is he England? And that's the question about we've got to ask. Well, because it's weird calling it Euro 2020 and Euro 2021, but I guess it is what it is.
Yeah.
Who is going to that squad and make it as effective as possible? I'm wondering if obviously Bellingham. I mean, he's another more maybe not an attacking midfielder, but a very decent central midfielder. Is he in the hunt? Do you think for an England place? Will he be in contention?
I don't know. I've not. It's another one I've not really seen much of him, and it's not. It's you'd know if he's been lighting up. Of how many. How much news attention he get, but obviously
what do you mean? Not the shirt number for him.
Yeah, he can have the 22 for England for sure, but no, obviously it's an interesting one with Bellingham because obviously he's still very very young and obviously he's got a lot to go in his career and I think eventually he'll break more into the first team and I think he'll just still remain just being under 21 fodder.
Yeah.
Just obviously a bit more progression in his career and considering it's his first season in the Bundesliga,
Yeah. It looks like we might be losing a few players to Jamaica. I was just trying to find the ones that we are losing. Ivan Toney and Max Aarons, as he's now pronounced. They have rejected Jamaica calls, apparently, reportedly.
Oh, right.
And they are recruiting new people. I think Michael Antonio and Nathan Redmond were ones being considered. Rolando Aarons, Max's cousin, I think is very interested now in playing for Jamaica. What do you do? Is it going to be like we're going to lose some players here? I'm just going to find the list quickly, so bear with me of the ones that have. So Tony and Aarons, fair play to them. They want to fight for the spot, but is there just too much competition for both of them at the moment? Strike right back, very much so. We've got lots of right backs in the race, really. We've got Wan-Bissaka, who looks like he is going to maybe switch to is it Congo?
Something like that. I think, yeah. I think
yeah.
I see. This is my FIFA knowledge. I'm pretty certain his first ever Ultimate Team card, he was DR Congo, his nationality.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that is where he's going to play. But by the looks of things, so I can't see him breaking through either. Like Aaron's, with Reece James, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, with Kieran Trippier, with Kyle Walker, and you've got Maitland-Niles, James Tavernier from Rangers. There's a lot of competition there. But the ones that I've now got the list up: Casey Palmer, Liam Moore, Ethan Pinnock, Andre Gray, Amari Bell, Rolando Aarons, Jamal Lowe, Rangers forward Kamar Roof, Wigan defender Curtis Tilt are set to switch their international allegiances from England to Jamaica. So that's quite a big list.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing, like I think it might be a big list, but realistically, from the point of view is that I think some of those players are of the age right now. I think that if they're not getting into I mean, I don't know, unless they suddenly have a similar thing to like Jamie Vardy did, where they suddenly come out, well, I suppose not quite out of nowhere, but suddenly hit a significant amount of form. If, unless that happens, I can't see them getting to first team for England, partly because I think some of them are currently of the age where if they're not getting international football now with England, then I almost can't see. I can almost never see it kind of happening unless it suddenly has a mini Jamie Vardy sort of thing, if you know what I mean.
And possible, obviously, Antonio is interested apparently. So I don't think he's accepted it yet. I don't know if they're switching. He's switching definitely, but Antonio is someone I think who could play for Jamaica. And what a move that would be for him, for Jamaica, if they could get him playing for internationally for them. And Nathan Redmond, I remember Mick McCarthy a couple of years ago trying to get him for Ireland. I mean, he's got a few choices. Obviously, played for England in that friendly, only a friendly. He can switch still. Would it be? I mean, this is a real ambitious move from Jamaica for the 2022 World Cup. This team, obviously, through this project that they've now set up of getting all these players switching to them, they could be a competitive team.
Yeah, no disrespect to Jamaica, but obviously I don't really know much about the nationality team, but this would improve them a lot if the majority of these players do switch, and it's gonna be interesting. And you'd like to think, I don't know about the qualification stuff, side for the the Americas, but if not, then World Cup 2026 possibly, I guess. But there's going to be massive improvements, and whether all of the names you said do change or not, it's going to be interesting, definitely. And I'm pretty certain they've also got Leon Bailey from Bayer Leverkusen, because he's Jamaican.
He's a very talented player. I remember England were trying to get him once, but because I think his parents had British nationality, but I don't know if they were born in Britain, and that was the complicated thing.
Yeah,
And
I think
they've got Ravel Morrison as well, don't they?
Ravel Morrison, yeah.
Yeah,
Ravel Morrison. He's a whole other podcast episode about him and how his stories. He's played for loads of clubs, under 50 appearances for every team he's played for, which isn't amazing because he's not young anymore, is he? I mean, I always think of him as a young player, but he's been around so long. He's just not young. He's just not done it anywhere.
Part of the youth cup winning team for Man United in 2011. So that's how old we are now.
Yeah, I mean, he is a class player on his ability wise. You would have thought so, but he's weird. He's never done it anywhere, and I'm not sure. Has he made any appearances for Jamaica yet? I think he switched, but I don't know.
I think he has. I'm not sure. Let me take a look at that.
I was about to do that, but I'll let you do that. So
let Jim Cam do it. Aarons and Tony would obviously be the main two. Obviously, it's that they both believe in themselves to play for England. It's great, but for the other one, it's great for them. To play international football. That's something that's amazing.
Yeah.
Ravel Morrison has currently got 2 international caps for Jamaica.
Interesting. Okay, so he's now in their squad now.
Fair play.
When did he make his debut for them? What year did he start?
Well, he started last year, apparently, 2020.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But I've just taken a look at the world rankings as well for football. Obviously football. What else? What other sport would it be?
Yeah, it was an ambitious move, and if they could pull off Antonio and Redmond as well, I mean that would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the world rankings up here. Jamaica are currently sitting in 47th. I mean, the world rankings can only go well. They're not a proper reflection already, but they are, I suppose, something to go by. But Jamaica are in fact currently sitting in 47th, and I think if they were able to at least get a couple of those players that you mentioned, I feel as though they could at least be boosted quite significantly. I think, like I said, I think a lot of the players will be tempted to go because, of course, like I said as well, if they're not getting regular international football at this point, the chance of getting consistent England football then is quite unlikely. For example, I can't remember how old Jamaica. I can't remember how old Nathan Redmond is anymore. but it's been a few years since he was at Norwich City and Dinger, someone with a significant amount of potential. And even though someone like Redmond has made a few caps for England in a friendly or so, it's obvious it's been a long time since he last got up for England. So he will be thinking about how he wants regular football or just wants to play football in both
That's the thing.
as he can.
The thing with international football is you've got to be committed. Like I remember, was it Jermaine Pennant? I think he never play for England or something. I don't think he did he? Jermaine Pennant.
Sure.
I'm thinking of the right guy, but he was obviously he had his own stories, but I don't think he ever played for England. And
he didn't know 24 appearances for the under 21s, 2001 to 2004, but none.
And he had Irish and Jamaican descent, like Nathan Redmond does. So he could have played for any of them. And I remember Ireland near the end of his career, he was saying, "Oh, I love to play for England, but if I don't, I don't. If Ireland offer me the chance to play, I'll take it with both hands." I mean, do you want players who are just like when you've got someone playing for your country? Surely you want 100% commitment. And the only thing with switching countries, isn't it? You always wonder, like, are there going to be a player that switches nationalities and then comes straight in and is like really fired up, or is it going to be by just playing it, to have some international football, to say that they're an international footballer?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think we were talking to somebody. I think we were talking about to one of our friends from Scotland a couple of weeks ago about I can't remember what specific player he mentioned for the Scottish national team, but I think he criticised him quite heavily for the lack of passion that he had when it comes to international football.
And there are quite a few like that in the Scotland and Ireland team who are obviously English born and a lot of the time would have even visited Scotland or have too many connections. But if they've got the chance, if they're just discovered they've got the opportunity to play for Scotland and Ireland, because they'll around the clock they'll be looking for players that they can make a part of their squad. And if they haven't got the commitment, then that's not the ideal, is it?
Yeah. Was it you? Well, there was a Scottish player, I think, like you mentioned, that had who I think played for Scotland, but he was born in England or something. I can't remember which player it was, but I think it's Matt Ritchie, who never visited Scotland before until
but they're meant to play for Scotland. Yeah, I mean, you have those sort of players sometimes. They've got the connection, obviously with their family and stuff, but they haven't been raised in that country. I mean, who knows? Matt Ritchie, in my opinion, there's been drama with him recently, has there? With the Newcastle team, he's fallen out of groups apparently. And that's a shame. If they do, I don't know how likely it is that they will go down, but if they go down, Matt Ritchie, a player, like, he's someone who I look at the Newcastle squad, I look at Dwight Gale, I look at Matt Ritchie, look at Jacob Murphy, Jamal Lewis, Jamal Lascelles, Isaac Hayden. I mean, that's a championship winning team. I mean, come on, look, that if they have the right football under that team and they're all 100% up for it, that's a team that can win the championship. So you don't really want to you don't want to have that negative atmosphere in that dressing room at the moment, do you?
No. If we go up next season, well, for the next season, which I think is still probably on the cards, but isn't there yet. But would you in the Premier League, would you take Matt Ritchie in that case, or?
In the Premier League, I don't know. He's an all right player in the Premier League. I think he's someone who at Championship level is ridiculously good, like he was for Newcastle last time. I think he's an effective player on this day. I'm not sure he's going to be the star at Newcastle because I don't think that Newcastle team is elite at Premier League level. I think they're quite mediocre. But I'm not obviously Newcastle, fantastic club, fantastic fan base, but I don't think that team is full of Premier League stars. But if they were to get relegated, I think that team is full of Championship stars, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they'll do well to go back up again, I'd say, if they go down.
Would that be because of negativity? Would they lose players, do you think?
I don't know. It's an interesting one. Obviously, third relegation within 12 years. Obviously, that's got to put a massive downspout and obviously, fans are going to be very, obviously the angriest they've ever been, because obviously bad enough going down once 2009. Obviously, it made worse 2016, but this time it's a whole lot worse. And obviously, considering how it all ended with Benitez in charge, obviously going and obviously bringing in Steve Bruce and the fans constantly calling for him to be sacked, even before he's even managed a game for them, and it's not gone very well for them. And
I saw earlier that they paid Sheffield Wednesday 6.5 million quid to get Steve Bruce to manage them in compensation. The same week they paid 40 million for Joe Linton. So that's 46.5 million quid on Steve Bruce and Joe Linton.
It's crazy money.
I think the 40. I think that kind of just shows how Joe Linton was definitely not a Steve Bruce signing. I think it was more of a Mike Ashley signing, really.
Yeah,
more
I
than
think
anything.
the thing is with Joe Linton, he's not a goal scorer, is he? Not really.
No.
You know, he wasn't even when he was good. He's an impressive physical player. His link-up play is great. I think if you really dig at him and look at his attributes, he's actually quite effective. But I don't think a lot of players in this. So Newcastle striking options consist of Joe Linton, Andy Carroll, and Dwight Gale. Gale, I think, is very effective when you use him correctly in the system. He doesn't play a lot, so that's not going to do him a lot of favours. But I think he is very, very effective on his day, maybe more at championship level. Andy Carroll, I don't really know how he's in the Premier League. And Joe Linton is just a striker who's not really a massive goal scorer. So obviously, the Newcastle team isn't going to have the most. It's not going to be free-flowing, exciting goals if you can't have the ball in the back of the net and get the fans getting excited.
I think you've missed that one important player in that attacking list, in Callum Wilson.
Yes, but he's injured at the moment, so I've forgotten.
Of course,
he's a decent striker on his day. Yeah, he's a decent striker on his day. And I think
it's just
the back.
A bit ironic. I think it's just a bit ironic that Callum Wilson. I think I said to someone before. It's ironic that Callum Wilson cost half the price of Joe Linton, and yet scored probably double the amount he scored in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't see. I think obviously, a striker's primary goal is not necessarily these days not just to get goals scored, which I think a lot of people think. But at the same time, you think you would have thought, even at least a minimum, a striker, especially for 40 million, would be scoring more than the amount of that Joe Linton has scored. But I feel as though, going back to Pookie a little bit, I think the best thing about Pookie, when like Callum said earlier about the comparison between Pookie and Ivan Toney, I think the best thing about Pookie is the fact that even when he was not getting a regular amount of goals, I had to credit Pookie heavily, because I think Pookie's off the ball movement, I think, to me, is almost second to none, really.
Premier League stand, no doubt.
Yeah, and on top of that, Pookie is also, as you also said, defensively he's fantastic. And even when he's not on form getting the goals, I think he's performing out of this world, really. But a lot of people don't seem to notice that, because they're, as I said, people seem to think strikers' primary goals is actually scoring.
Yeah, you've got to look at the whole game. Stats don't say everything. Especially if people miss out stats. There's loads of stats. Not just goals and assists. The player creates a beautiful chance, and the striker misses it. That's not even it's not an assist. So that's why you need to there's not so much to it. But you need to look at the whole game. Well, it's amazing. We've been speaking for an hour and 3 minutes. I wondered what we'd talk about. We're just chatting about loads of random stuff. We've gone for over an hour.
A lot of waffle, but it's all been fun.
Load of waffle, all been fun. It's been great chatting with you. Obviously, I've been posted by Callum, totally Tatey legend. He's there with his beautiful hat on, and just having his beer is Jimmy Jammy Mackie Jackson, whatever your username is on Twitch. Do you want to say your Twitch username again so we have it right?
My Twitch username and Twitter handle now is JimMac247, all one word.
Plug.
We had a bit of a Jimmy Carl up at the end, but that's the.
It had to come somewhere, It had to come somewhere in this recording.
Well, it's been great, just been great chatting with you boys. Thanks a lot for this.
See you later.